Hello, Algebra 1A students, for Ms. Buchanan. This is the midterm review, and let's get started. Pause this video as needed. She went through this in class in case you missed it in class, or you missed some, or you didn't get it all finished, or you're online, whatever reason. Let's go through this. Okay. What is the algebraic expression for the word phrase? The sum of b and 7, that would be adding, so that would be C. This would be the difference, and this would be multiply, whatever. 2, the difference of k and 12. The difference of k and 12, difference is subtraction. This would be the sum or adding. This would be the product or multiplying. 8 times the sum of r and m. R plus m, I'm going to have adding, and 8 is going to be times that, so 8 times that addition, so that's going to be D. For number 4, the quotient of 6 and the difference of D and M. So quotient means divide, so it's going to look like a fraction. So we have the quotient of 6 and the difference between D and M. What word phrase can you use to represent the algebraic expression? Number 5, 4f, that would be 4 times a number f. Whenever they're right next to each other, it means multiplication, it means times. Here I have 4 times a number plus 4, or it could be written the sum of 4 times a number and 4. So this is the sum. And number 7, I have this all written out over here for you. I did the in parentheses first. And then I did the exponent, next step. And then I multiplied, and then I divided. I got 100. She skips 8, goes to number 9. Evaluate this for when these letters equal those numbers. I just substituted those numbers in, and I have it written over here. And you just work it out, use order of operations, multiplication first, and then addition, you get 37. Number 10, you have these letters are represented by these numbers, and you plug in those numbers, and it ends up being 144. For number 11, what is an expression for the sale price of a bracelet that has been discounted 60% from its sticker price? Evaluate the expression for a sticker price of $30. So if it was $30 and you subtract 60% of 30, 60% as a decimal, you move it 2 places to the left, it would be 12. And that makes sense because think of like 50% of 50% of 30 would be $15. So a little bit less than $50 and $12. Yeah, that makes sense. So A is the correct answer. You got to think of your answers if they make sense, okay? Number 12, at the grocery store, you buy a carton of milk for $3.85, a loaf of bread for $1.85, and a bag of cookies to dunk in that milk for $1.15. Use mental math to find the total cost of the groceries. If you take that $3.85 and the $1.15, 85 plus 15 is another $1. So that will boost you up to $4 plus $1 left, $5, $6.85. So $6.85. That's a good way to do it. What is the simplified form of each expression? You want to think of this as just -1 times 6. See, like that, and then you're just distributing that negative into here. So this would become -6. This would become a positive C. So that's over here, -6, positive C. 14, you distribute that negative, just like what you did here. There's a 1 there, that means there's a 1 here too, but you just don't see it, but there's a negative, in other words. So negative goes in, so that becomes -4k and -2r. Solution of each equation, use mental math. What would you add 2 to get 10? Well, 8. 8 plus 2 is 10, so mental math. 16, what I did here is I divided both sides by 2. So 2.2 divided by 2 is a 1.1, and that would equal k. This one you would multiply both by 5 in order to get rid of that j divided by 5, so it's just j. And so 5 times -1 is -5, so that is my answer for 17. Poor Manny and Emma are both competing in a long jump competition at their school. Manny can jump 2/3 of the distance that Emma can jump. Manny can only jump 18 inches. I bet you it should have been feet. But anyways, well, that would be pretty long. That would be like a record-breaking 27 feet. So yeah, maybe 18 inches, just 1.5 feet. But anyways, how far can Emma jump? So 2/3 of Manny's equals, or 2/3 of Emma's equals Manny's, which is 18. So you got to do 18 divided by 2/3. When you do that on your calculator, you'll get 27 inches. Mental math, it's only going to be the one that's going to be greater than 18 inches, and a lot greater, 2/3 greater, which would be D. That, just makes sense. For 19, I have to solve for D, not negative D, but I want to solve for D. So I got to subtract 13 from both sides. And then I am going to divide each side by a -1. So my answer is D equals -5. 17. Hannah wants to buy a camera for $5.95. She can save $35 each week from her paycheck. However, before Hannah can buy the camera, she must give her brother $70. How many weeks will Hannah need to save before she could pay her brother back and buy the camera? So 35 per week minus the 70 she has to give to her brother is going to equal that. When is it going to equal $5.95? Well, I add 70 to both sides. That gets rid of it here, that's why I did it. And then divide both sides by 35. 665 divided by 35 is 19, so that would be 19 weeks. So 19 is your correct answer for 20. For 21, what I did was I multiplied both sides by 5. So I got B minus 6 equals 50. And then I added 6 to both sides, and I get 56. 22. I combined my like terms. My 5p minus 4p just gave me 1p minus 2. And then I added 2 to both sides. And 5 equals p. 24. I distributed the 5 times y is 5y, 5 times 4 is 20. And then I subtracted 20 from both sides. And then I divided by 5 both sides and get y equals 4. Once again, slow this down as you need. 25, I combined, I added 5x to both sides. Got rid of it over here. And I end up with x, 1x, minus 4 equals 2. And then I added 4 to both sides. And I get x equals 6. This one I used the distributive property, so I get these two answers here for using the distributive property for both sides of the equation. And then I combine my like terms. And what I actually did here is I isolated the variable on one side. I shouldn't say combine like terms. I added 10x, added 10x. Okay. These didn't cancel out. 10 minus 5 is 5x. And then what I did here is I added 5 to both sides. These canceled out. So I get 85 equals 5x. I divide both sides by 5. I get 17. So 17 is your answer for 27. Number 28, which equation is an identity? It's going to be this one. because I started working it out and I combine my like terms and I get the same thing on each side. Okay, I use the distributive property, then I combine my like terms and I get the same thing. When you got the same thing on each side, that's going to be identity. Which equation has no solution? Right off the bat, you could look at this one and you could see that if I were to subtract 3y from both sides, to try to isolate it, you end up with 6 equals -3. No way. All these others will have one solution or infinite solutions if you're checking them out. Number 30. I used the distributive property, and then I combine my like terms. I get h minus 6 on each side once you work it out, and that's going to be infinitely many solutions. This one, once again, remember if you have the same, like a positive number and a positive number with the variable, or a negative and a negative, if they're the same on both sides, just this part where the variable is, when you go to get rid of it on one side, you're getting rid of it on this side too. And if these two numbers aren't equal, that's going to be no solution, okay? Because this says 6 equals 3 once I do that. And that is not true. So it's no solution. 32 was the equation when you get to solve for x, this right here, when you solve for x. Well, when you do that, if you subtract t from both sides, you end up getting rid of t, right? So you're left with negative q equals vx. Negative q equals vx. To get the x by itself, because we're solving for it, we divide by v. Divide by v. Gets rid of it over here. So we're left with negative q over v equals x. That's what this is. It's just written backwards. 33. Solution, you do the cross multiplication. 10 times x is 10x. 8 times a negative 16 is a negative 128. I divide both sides by 10. I get x equals negative 12.8. And so for number 34, I do cross multiplication again. This becomes 17 times x minus 7, and 11 times 7 is 77. I use the distributive property. I then add 119 to both sides. I then divide both sides by 17. And it is whatever 196 divided by 17 is, which is a crazy fraction. Okay, hopefully this helps you get ready for your midterm.